Good morning this morning. Welcome to a Who in the World is Tyler Bowen edition of the OHIO podcast. Do us a big favor and smash that like button. Really does help out the channel. You know what else helps out the channel? Subscribing. It costs nothing. It's absolutely free. It doesn't cost you a dime. In fact, it only takes a second. If you would have just subscribed instead of listening to me do this, it would already be done. So subscribe to the channel, costs you nothing. We absolutely appreciate it. I have a very special guest to bring on. I have Brian from the Boundary Corner podcast. It is a Virginia Tech podcast, a sister podcast of ours in the College Huddle. So, if you like what he says and you happen to be a Virginia Tech fan, go check out their podcast. If you need to find it, go to thecollegehuddle.com, go over to ACC, drop down to Virginia Tech, click on their name, bada boom, bada bing, you'll see all of their links. You can follow them over there. We're over at the College Huddle as well, Big Ten, Ohio State, the OHIO podcast. Or you just go to our website, theohiopodcast.com. If you need to contact me for any reasons, you can email the show at theohiopodcast@gmail.com. If at any point during this video something strikes your fancy, please make a comment down in the comment section below. It helps us out as it gives this video out into the YouTube algorithm and out to more Ohio State fans, much like yourselves. All right, real quick, Ohio State has three. I shouldn't say new. Ohio State needed to replace two offensive coaches, and they decided to promote from within for two, and they also brought one in from the outside. I'll explain in just a second. But offensive coordinator Chip Kelly decided to get a $4 million pay raise. That's pretty good. And is going to be calling plays for the Las Vegas Raiders in 2025 back in the NFL. And so we wish Chip nothing but the best. And tip of the hat, thank you for helping us win a natty in 2024. Brian Hartline, the wide receiver coach, gets promoted to OC. It's been well documented. We will talk about that all summer long. Billy Fessler is the quarterbacks coach. He was already on staff. He's already called plays, even though he's a very young guy. He's going to be the new quarterbacks coach. Ryan Day is super excited to have him. Will Howard gave him his stamp of approval on his way out at Ohio State and his thank you video. So this is somebody who we're going to be learning more about, but very excited to have him on the staff. And of course, Justin Fry heads off to the NFL as well, our offensive line coach. He is going to be coaching for the Arizona Cardinals. And again, wish him nothing but the best. Tip of the hat to him. Thanks for helping us win a national championship. Great job in developing that offensive line and adjusting when you had to, when that was obviously the biggest question mark going into 2024 and the position that endured the most injuries in 2024. So he deserves some massive credit for that, which meant that's the position on the offense that we needed to fill. And we fill it with Tyler Bowen, the offensive coordinator from Virginia Tech. Now, I could do what a lot of people do, open up his Wikipedia, go through, tell you where he's been, watch some YouTube videos where he's being interviewed, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We're not going to do that. We're going to do you one better this morning. I interviewed Brian from the Boundary Corner podcast. He's going to come on. He's going to tell you about Tyler Bowen because he's been covering him from his podcast for the last 3 years, last 3 seasons. He's interviewed him, he's talked to him, he's followed him in recruiting, etc. He's got more insights than I ever could try to come up with. And so we're just going to go to the horse's mouth and we're going to find out from a Virginia Tech person who this guy is, and truly, are they happy to see him leave? Are they upset to see him leave? What can we expect from our new offensive line coach?
Let's
Enjoy
do
the
it.
interview. And as you can see, folks, we are now joined by my special guest, Brian, from the Boundary Corner podcast, a Virginia Tech podcast here on the College Huddle. Brian, thank you so much for joining me, man.
Eric, thanks for having me. I unfortunately under the circumstances for Virginia Tech's perspective, but glad to join you and chop it up a little bit and give Buckeyes a little bit of information about our buddy here.
Yeah, yeah. So that's what we're gonna do. But before we do that, I do want to say, hey, man, in my lifetime we're 1-1. So it's as far as our two football programs are concerned, man, it's I'm looking forward for that rubber match eventually someday.
We got to get it sometime. And the whole meme out there. We had you in the first half. Not gonna lie, we had you in the first half in that second one. Not gonna lie, and then that second half went completely the other direction there
Yeah.
between Michael Brewer going down, and we had the spin move heard around the world for that long rushing touchdown there, and the rest is history.
My Some of my good friends from the Purdue podcast, they've been out to Blacksburg. They said, "Dude, Virginia Tech is must go visit." They say the people are great, the atmosphere was great. They loved everything about that trip. So, if the Buckeyes ever do a home and home with you guys again, that is on my bucket list to go out your way, my man, and check that out. So. Looking forward to that. All right, let's dive into Tyler Bowen, man. So, been with your program for 3 years, OC, quarterback coach, tight end coach. Sounds like we're bringing him in as an offensive line coach. Number one, did he call plays? Was he like OC? I'm gonna be in the box calling play type of guy.
Yeah, so when he came into Virginia Tech, he was designated at tight ends and was the OC and play caller. After year one, he moved into the quarterback coach role along with being an OC. For the most part, he was in that room from a scheme perspective and not from a mechanics perspective. Brian Chris was doing most of the quarterback mechanics coaching in that room, whereas Tyler Bowen was primarily just working at it from a scheme perspective. It's kind of looking at it from a broader picture, essentially shrinking down what he was teaching the team from an OC perspective just for that quarterback room, since that's kind of where the offense is running through.
Gotcha. Okay. And what was your overall take of him as a coach and a play caller?
Really smart offensive mind. We had him on our podcast a couple times, and just talking to him, he is really deep into the X's and O's. Really good at the relationship piece of the puzzle as well. When we think about whether it's recruiting, whether it's on campus, whether it's engaging with the fan base, definitely a big relationship guy. So he was really good from that perspective. Looking at him from a play caller, I liked him as a play caller. I think sometimes the start of our season, I think sometimes his evaluation of scheme and how we wanted to approach our personnel relative to especially out of conference opponents left a little bit to be desired. We tended to play down to our out of conference competition, and then we get into conference play and kind of pick things up a little bit. If you look at 2023 and 2024, that's a pretty evident track record. And if you look at how we performed offensively, it was very uneven in those first kind of 3 or 4 contests each year.
Was he a good interview? Like, is he like, was he
Really
like
good
great?
interview. Really good
Really?
interview.
Okay.
Yeah, and I mean, I've still got some contacts with him directly. Not that I talk to him regularly, but we've interfaced on X several times. Traded some emails here or there. So really good guy. He'll answer questions if you have them. If they're not like you know more of a one-off here or there, not necessarily something that you would want to make a habit of. But he's definitely a relationship guy and has no problem engaging independent podcasts within the community if that's something that top down has been kind of a something that he's gotten the thumbs up on. So
Some of the stuff I'm reading about him is that he's a really good recruiter. You agree?
a very good recruiter, yes. And I mean, his bread and butter is kind of that DMV area, the Maryland, DC, Northern Virginia section of the country. Really big for our footprint. I think the only thing I would say is that we did have a little bit of redundancy there in terms of guys that are good in those areas. We've got JC Price that played in that area growing up, recruited that area pretty heavily throughout his time. Then we got Elijah Brooks that was at Maryland for a couple years there, came over to us, has also recruited that, that DC Maryland area pretty heavy as well. So his bread and butter was that area as well. That's definitely something that very talent rich area that I think you guys can we'll have some good luck with him being able to pull talent out of that area, especially looking at him moving to the offensive line area. There's been a couple really good offensive linemen coming out of Northern Virginia, coming out of the Catholic school there in Maryland that might be good pulls for your crew over there.
Yeah. So reading between the lines with some Virginia Tech fans, it's always hard to gauge an individual based off of response from a fan base after someone leaves. Like if you ask any Ohio State fan right now, Jim Knowles is probably the worst defensive coordinator on the planet, and that is absolutely not true. Like, well, I shouldn't say that because a lot of fans will say, we appreciate what he did as defensive coordinator, but now he's the enemy, going to Penn State, and so we don't like him. But um, I've seen some Virginia Tech fans who are like, yeah, he's not that great. Give me an honest assessment here, though. Like, is he like he kind of takes a step down here a little bit, going from OC to offensive line coach, and Brian Hartline is everybody's saying that's our offensive coordinator. Like he's the coordinator here now. So kind of assess that for me and give me an honest, real take of what the fan base there in Virginia Tech really thought of him, maybe before and after, and then kind of give me your take on him kind of going down a step as far as maybe going from OC to just a position coach.
Yeah, I think it's really a mixed bag here. I think there were some people that were very content. I wouldn't say happy, but content with what we saw from Tyler Boeing as an offensive coordinator. I think there was a pretty vocal minority that absolutely wanted him gone, along with Chris Marv when we were making some changes in the offseason. And then I think you got a lot of people in the middle there that would have been okay either way, either direction. When I look at Tyler Bowen, I see a guy that is really smart, does a lot of good things with motion, as far as getting us in a good position to create those mismatches in an offensive scheme perspective. I think he did a really good job of getting guys prepared for different situations and making adjustments at halftime. I think where he ran into a lot of trouble was some of his situational play calling, and sometimes that left a lot to be desired, particularly in the red zone from time to time. But he was a very smart, like I said, very smart offensive line. Offensive coordinator in terms of his knowledge of scheme, knowledge of different elements of offense and what kind of makes things go. So I think he's going to translate well to an offensive line coach, just because a lot of that is a mental aspect of the game and having to understand what everyone else is doing and how you operate within that framework. And I know he's got some experience coaching offensive line before. I believe he had some time at Furman where he was at OL, and I think a brief stint at Maryland, but before he was there at Penn State. So he's had some experience at the position, coaching the position, but it's been a good while since he's had that unit as himself. I think if you asked my co-host Jonathan Talley, he's very happy right now.
Interesting.
He kind of saw it as, looking at the bigger picture, we kind of scapegoated Chris Marv here because very situational late in games. We had the lead, we lost the lead, we lost the game, and that looked very problematic for Chris Marv in those situations. He wasn't able to get it done when he had to get it done, and you can argue that we scored enough points in most of our games to win most of those games if you get good defensive performances down the stretch. At the same time, there were, like we said, there's vocal parts of the fan base that ask questions like, our weakest link was offensive line. If you're a guy that understands offensive line, you're the coordinator of the offense, and you see cracks forming, or you see your offensive line coach not having the right personnel in the game, or you've seen guys hit their ceiling, and that ceiling isn't hitting the performance level that we expect, and you've got young guys waiting in the wing that have some higher ceiling potential there. Why aren't you saying to that guy, hey, let's get him in there, let's get this guy some more run? Because offensive line was absolutely our weakest area,
Right.
probably on our whole team, if not particularly on the offensive side of the ball.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, it sounds like your co-host and my co-host should get together. It sounds like they would have a. Uh, I'm I'm usually the positive guy on the podcast, and my co-host is like, "Oh, fire Ryan Day." So
Yeah, it's fun. I'm a very even keel guy. I've got
yeah,
Curtis, my other co-host, is probably on the high end, and Tally. I wouldn't say he's negative, but he's going to ask the tough questions
sure.
when situations present themselves. So
That's great. No, that's great. Just a couple more questions. Where do you think Tyler wants to get to in his career? Do you think maybe this is him looking at, hey, I can get to Ohio State and use it kind of as a stepping stone because I've got plans to one day be like a head coach? Is that where you think his mindset's at here a little bit?
I could see that being the case. I could see him wanting to be in a power two situation,
Ah,
regardless of where that lands, whether it's trying to get back to an offensive coordinator level or whether it's to take that next step to a head coach level. I think that was the big move for him, is that he saw this as a way to get away from the ACC, because a lot of people are seeing the ACC as kind of a
okay.
dead man walking in a lot of ways. And I think some of the things that happened with ESPN picking up the extension on that deal is kind of just, it's not really even stopping the bleeding. I think it's just a way to keep Clemson and FSU in the fold, but it's not really benefiting the conference relative to the what the other conferences are doing at this point. So I think we're going to end up being behind the eight ball in terms of total money going forward. And at the end of the day, Ohio State and Big Ten SEC jobs are looked at more favorably, even taking that step down from coordinator to position coach. So I think just from a long term career trajectory, it looked like a better deal for him, especially with a guy like Coach Pride that's entering year 4, replacing some coordinators, probably on the hot seat a little bit. I don't think 2025 is a do or die year for him. But at the same time, depending on how this year goes, that's going to really put a big target on him for 2026.
Interesting. Interesting. And that's a great segue into my final question for you. And this you can be as completely as fantastical as you want to be here. So as someone who runs a podcast for Virginia Tech, what what do you want? What's your greatest wish coming out of this ACC things? And I'll be honest, I haven't really followed it much since last offseason because we've been in the midst of the season. I haven't dived back in. I saw some rumblings about North Carolina the other day, and I didn't even watch the video because I was just like, I don't know if I even want to dive into this. What's the best case scenario for you as a Virginia Tech fan? What do you want to see happen for the Hokies and all of this thing, man?
You know, it's been a lot of different ideas thrown around there, and I know we're talking about, they're talking about this, 48 or 72 team model, as far as the major, what the current Power Four is, basically, with some teams kind of thrown out and some teams thrown in. I like that model. I think Virginia Tech makes the cut in that model. If we're just talking about reshuffling as is, I don't know if Virginia Tech gets an offer from a Big Ten or an SEC, although I would probably prefer Big Ten. I think from a football pedigree and kind of from a historical, like how we play the game and things like that, I think we align maybe a little bit more with that SEC model. But I think the sports that we bring to the table, I think having such a wrestling pedigree within our athletic department, I think those other pieces of the puzzle align more with the Big Ten than they do with the SEC. So I would probably prefer a Big Ten as a landing spot if we're just talking about reshuffling the ACC into the framework that already exists. But probably a best case scenario is kind of some sort of restructured framework, and where we get back to more essentially having divisions within and kind of making those regional within a larger group that that kind of plays each other. I think the conferences, as far as a label, would go away, but it would be more of a regional look. Those teams would play each other regularly. You'd play some cross division games, very much an NFL type model. At the end of the day, just with a larger pool of teams.
Would you accept the invitation of the Big 12 if the ACC went away?
It would be better than the alternative, right? It would be much better than the alternative. And I think the Big 12 is an interesting conference at this point because I feel like they are a very deep conference. I don't think there's a ton of bottom feeders in that conference, but I don't think you don't have
fun to watch. Actually,
you don't have
it's
the
really
heavy
fun
hitters that you used to have in the conference now. So,
well, Colorado will disagree with you. Just they will try to tell us Dion makes them a heavy hitter, but yeah, that's such an interesting. That's such an interesting thing to think that Big 12 is. I feel like Big 12 is just kind of there saying we're going to pick up all the pieces and make the funnest, most entertaining product we can do, and in doing so, they're saving a lot of programs, I think, in all honesty. And how big this Big Ten SEC thing gets to, are we going to see an NFL like model of some kind? I mean, it's just wild times to think about all those years ago when we had NCAA whatever number on our PlayStations and we were just creating all these crazy models of what conferences should look like. And fast forward 12 years, 13 years down the road, and here that's exactly what we're doing in real life. It's just crazy to think about. I, for one, if it was all left up to me, I'd be bringing in Pitt and Virginia Tech, and I'd be expanding the footprint in the Big Ten regionally is what I would be doing, as opposed to the whole coast to coast thing. Like, as much as it was a lot of fun to jostle with Oregon this year, and it's going to be fun to see USC Ohio State, which is a Rose Bowl rivalry. Like, it doesn't really make sense. Like, how many people can really afford to fly out to California and then fly to 2 or 3 different bowl games at the end of the season? Like, that number of people who can afford to do that is slim to none. But we can jump in our car and we can travel to Virginia. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it just makes sense to me that, kind of maybe something similar where the Big Ten says, you know what, we're going to gobble up as many teams as we can, and we're going to make an NFL looking, NFC or AFC. We're going to have these 6 pods of 6, 7, or 8 teams or whatever that are all regionally based. To me, that makes more sense, but what do I know, right?
And I think the thing that Virginia Tech does have in its pocket, and you can say the same thing for a UVA, is that if you're looking at it from a market and eyes perspective, neither the SEC or the Big Ten really have footprints into Virginia. So that would be a benefit, a plus in the pocket of either conference in terms of eyes and media dollars and market size that you don't really have access to right now. That's one thing that I think Virginia Tech and again UVA as well can leverage that maybe some of these other ACC schools don't really have that feather in their cap because there's already that overlap in markets with some of the other schools in the SEC and in the Big Ten.
Thank you so much for your time, Brian. Tell everybody where they can find the Boundary Corner podcast, man.
Yeah, so we can be found at boundarycornervt.com. Got all of our episodes there, all of our videos. We got some fun articles there as well to check out. Our writer, Miranda Lambert, she's out there. And we got, if you want to check us out on YouTube, it's at Boundary Corner, youtube.com. And if you're looking for us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, just put in Boundary Corner Podcast and you will find us there. So we're out there everywhere. Give us a follow, give us a like, and come check us out.
And if all that fails, go to collegehuddle.com, go over to the ACC, scroll down to Virginia Tech. You'll find all their links on their page right there, my man. Thank you so much, Brian, for your time. I appreciate you, man.
All right. Appreciate you. You have a good one.
Hey, Buckeye Nation. The OHIO podcast is thrilled to partner with Export Mouthguards. the innovators redefining protection in contact sports. Introducing the Ninja Pro Mouthguard, the strongest and most advanced mouthguard on the market. Engineered by dental experts, it's designed to deliver elite protection with a sleek, low-profile fit. Made with carbon fiber and multi-layer construction, it's impact tested to keep you safe from even the hardest hits. But that's not all. The Ninja Pro is 3D printed for 100% custom fit, offering unbeatable comfort and security for any athlete. From football to MMA, dominate your game with confidence while safeguarding your teeth and jaw. Getting started is easy. Use our home impression kit to create your custom fit and enjoy prepaid shipping. It's protection delivered right to your door. Plus, with a 1-year warranty and 100% satisfaction guarantee, and proudly made in the USA, the Ninja Pro is your ultimate defense on the field or in the ring. And here's the best part. When you visit exportguards.com, use promo code OHIO at checkout to get 20% off your purchase. That's right, 20% off elite protection made just for you. Protect your game, protect your future. Choose Export Ninja Pro Mouthguards, where innovation meets protection. Head to exportguards.com and use promo code OHIO today.
And we want to thank Export Mouthguards for being a sponsor here at the OHIO podcast. We highly recommend, if you need a mouthguard, don't cut yourself short. Don't cheapen yourself. Protect your brain, protect your mouth, protect your teeth. Get the very best. And its breathability is performance enhancing, man. This stuff is amazing. We'll, as parents, we'll buy our kids $30 batting gloves, $250, $300 bats, and $400 baseball mitts, and we want them to have the very best equipment, right? But we never think about the mouth guard. Why are we cutting the mouth guard short? It absolutely needs to be, in my opinion, priority number one, because it's helping protect your brain. That's something you can't put a price tag on. Go to exportguards.com, use the promo code OHIO, save yourself 20%. How did I get 20% off? It's because the CEO is my older brother. That's how. It's called family. And you know else who's family now? Tyler Bowen is family now. He's one of us. He's a Buckeye coming in, coaching the offensive line. Thank you again, Brian, from the Boundary Corner podcast for joining us with that fantastic interview. Tremendous insight. Great guy. Hope you all really enjoyed that. All this talk about bringing someone new in who's now part of the Buckeye family reminds me of one of my favorite Bible verses, and that is Isaiah 43:1. But now thus saith the Lord that created thee, O Jacob, and he that formed thee, O Israel, fear not, for I have redeemed thee, I have called thee by thy name, thou art mine. And, it's so pleasant and such a good thought to think about. You know what? We aren't our own, but we are the Lord's. And you know what, Bowen? You are no longer your own, my man. You are part of Buckeye Nation. We've got your back. We've got your support. And we're here to help you out, my man. Just do a good job, right? Just do a good job. That's all you got to do, man. I hope you've enjoyed this show. We will have another video for you later this afternoon. So check back in. Ring the bell. Get notified. Never miss anything that we present to you. Ring that bell. We will be back also tomorrow afternoon. So we'll have one for you this afternoon. We have another video for you tomorrow afternoon. And then our live show tomorrow night. Yes, I know tomorrow night is some kind of sporting event called a Super Bowl. No one really cares. It's the Chiefs. It's the Eagles. Maybe you do. Most of America doesn't, okay? And goodness sakes, the Super Bowl halftime show is getting worse. The commercials are no longer funny anymore. It's a bunch of baloney, in my opinion. Yeah, I'm being a negative Nancy. I know. But, hey, we got something for you. If you're like me and you're kind of just like, come over to the OHIO podcast live show, 8 o'clock Eastern tomorrow. 8 o'clock Eastern tomorrow. We have a very special guest. Mello will be our special guest from the Buckeye Boys. He'll be joining us. We got some amazing topics tomorrow for the roundtable discussion show. You're not going to want to miss it. Come be a part of that show tomorrow with us, 8 o'clock Eastern, right here at the OHIO podcast. Again, subscribe, ring the bell, don't miss it. Be a part of the live chat in the community. And if you want to take that next step and you want to become an official member and get free shipping on things from the store, get free content that's members only, get the preview magazine for free, which is a $40 value, absolutely free. Become a member, only $3.99 a month, and you'll get all of that. And it's your way of saying thanks, bro. Thanks, bro. Appreciate your content, man. And we appreciate you. Have a great day, Buckeye Nation. Until next time, be kind to one another. I owe someone's OH. Sing Carmen, Ohio with all your heart. You know what to do. Go Bucks.